Hello guys, it's Stefano again. Today we are going to create animations from vector files. So we are going to animate our fantastic diagrams or shapes or whatever vector files that we make in Illustrator. Make sure that you're using After Effects CS6 for newer versions. So version number 6. So we are going to use a special function which is built on the 6 and not in any previous versions. So today we are going to create an animation which is going to be close to this one, which we have a couple of buildings uh, with windows, and then we are going to add a nice sky on the background. And then what do we have? We have also a cloud that moves here. So let's first, before getting to the Adobe After Effects environments, let's first see how we need to set up our Illustrator file before importing this file into After Effects. It's very simple. Basically, we just need to build our files, our vector files, into a template. So if we go to File, New, we usually work with Print document profile, either letter size or A3, A4. But since we are working with video, we have to select the video and film option here, and then in the size option, uh, let's select HDTV 720, which is the format we have been using so far. That works well with YouTube files and so on. So it's 1280 by 720 pixels. Okay. And now here we can create our buildings, and animate that. So just I don't need to get into to create the old file here, the old drawing, but let me just show you a couple of tricks to help making then our animation in After Effects. If we were to use After Effects 5 or previous versions, we had to we would have to divide to place each of our uh, elements into a different layer in order to animate the shape. But in After Effects 6, we can simply place our elements to animate inside the same layer. This is an example. Here we are animating first the three outlines of our buildings with the same animation style, and then after that we are animating the windows with this fancy kind of animation. So we can create two layers. In the first one, I call it buildings. We can place our three outlines, 1, 2, and 3. Whereas in the second one, windows, we can place all the windows here that we have. Alright, now we can simply save this file and import this file in After Effects. So that's our Illustrator file. You can drag it into the project area and import this file. Now After Effects is asking us which kind of import we want. We can choose between either footage or composition. Let's make sure that we select composition, and then the footage dimension. We want the document size, which is the size we selected here when we created the new site, which is the same of our final animation. So document size, okay. So here we have our buildings as a composition file. We can double click and we open up the composition, or we can create composition. First we can import, let's import again the Illustrator file. We can create new composition, call it buildings animation. We can select our dimension here, PTV, the duration, let's make it 10 seconds long, and then the background of the color, let's make it white. Okay, and now we can drag our animation, our composition here, but if we do that, see, there's nothing in it unless we double click. So better is to double click first and open the composition here. We select our two layers, we copy the layers and paste them in our actual composition, in which we define the length and then the background. And we can close it down. So we have our two layers, buildings and windows. So there is this fantastic option in After Effects that basically transforms each Illustrator layer into a shape, into an element that can be animated in After Effects. And this function is called, if we right click, select the layer, right click, create shapes from vector layer. Now we have a new layer called buildings outlines, which if we open it up, contents, we have our three outlines, group 1, group 2 and group 3, and inside we have the stroke, which is basically the outline or profile of group 1, and so on. We can do the same for the Windows layer, right click, create shapes from vector layer, and we can get rid of the two Illustrator layer. We don't need them anymore. If we look at the Windows outlines, we have contents and then all the different Windows apertures here. Just to make the layers a little bit more organized, we can place all these windows here inside one single group, and we can do that by clicking on add and then create a new group, empty, right click, rename Windows, okay. Then we can simply select all our groups and drag them inside the Windows folder. So now we have inside the Windows folder all our single elements. Okay, let's make some space, and let's first work with just the outlines of our building, so we can turn off the Windows layer for now. So our first piece of animation will be, if we look again, our animation will be to animate the outline of the buildings in this way, which is very nice, very effective, very simple. So to do that, um, let's open up the layer, and then we can add a function called trim paths. We open up trim paths option. Now see, we have our option here. So let's animate um, this function. See, now we are starting the animation from the top right corner of our buildings. We can change that by changing the offset. So now we're starting from the 180. Okay, now we're perfectly starting from the bottom left corner, and it looks better. So let's animate that. So we are at 0. We want nothing, so we check the stopwatch at this point. Then we move our timeline, let's say something 1 second, and then we have our first piece of animation. We can shrink down our preview, run preview, and here is, we can make it a little bit longer, something like that. Okay. We can also change which kind of option here we want, simultaneously or individually. Let's look at the difference. Let's make it a little bit longer. But since we are working with the pieces individually, we have to make sure that our offset goes back to 0. And then if we want our piece to be animated, we can also see the differences between start and end. Now we have, if we work with end, we have our first piece, then our second one, and then the third one here. So this is what we want. So we can check, and we can move our timeline, and then we go to up to 100%, and we have our animation. We have our 3 buildings animated. Very good. So now let's look at our second piece of animation in the video here. Go back. We have our 3 buildings, and then at the same time we have the background appearing, and then the windows and doors that go crazy. like that. Let's see how we can do that. So now we are looking at Windows, and then we can open up the layer and add content, and the effect we are looking at in the video is called Wiggle Transform. We can expand the option. Let's look at what Wiggle Transform does. We have to look at what we want to animate. Let's say in this case we want to animate the scale of our windows, and you start to see what this tool does. Basically randomly, in this case, scale up or scales down our uh, opening. So we can define the range of the scale with the slider, but we can also change the randomness of the scaling. Then also a bunch of options: temporal phase, spatial phase, if we want to add some more randomness to the spatial position. And then let's see how we can animate that. So you can check the scale here, move our slider, change the scale again if you want them to go back to 0, and check it. You can also make this effect more restrained here. Scale, you can have them bigger, and we have something crazier like that. But if you look at the animation here that we have, we want the windows that actually appear as soon as the animation of the three buildings ends. So we want this animation of the windows to start when the animation of the buildings ends. So we can do that. So we can move the timeline marker and then drag our windows. So let's expand here the timeline for 0, and now we have the windows. So now if you look at the timeline of the buildings, we see that here when it ends, the buildings disappear. So if you want our buildings to stay for the whole animation, we have to make sure that we expand the timeline of our elements. So now if we look at the whole animation, the 10 seconds one, we load all the frames, 1, 2, 3, the windows, and then all our pieces stay in the animation. That's very important. Okay, so go back. So at the same time, when we have our windows that go crazy, we have also our sky and the ground appearing. So let's create those elements here. So we are at this point, and then we want to create a new solid. Let's make it this blue color. We can have composition size, and now we can adjust the height. We can drag it, place it on the background. All right. Little bit down. All right. There we go. That's our sky, and then let's make also the ground composition. We can just simply duplicate this layer, solid settings. You can change here the color. Let's make it magenta. Smaller, and then we can drag it down. We can make it even smaller. There we go. Okay. So one observation here, we see that our buildings are transparent. Basically, that means that we don't have any filling, right? Whereas if we look at our animation here, we have our buildings that are actually solid, so white filling. So we can fill these buildings with white color. If we expand our buildings, we can expand our group 1. We can actually add a fill simply, and we can change the color of the fill. Double clicking here at the top, we select white. Okay, now we have our windows in the background. We can drag, change the level, and now we have our buildings at the top. Okay, so now we have to animate our background here, and we can do that with a mask. So we can select our solid mask rectangle tool, double click, we make it as big as the background, as the solid. Now we can animate that. So this is the effect that we want to achieve. We can select the mask and then drag it like that. This is the effect we want. So this is our first position of the mask. So if we expand the mask, we can check the stopwatch for the mask path, then change here, or we can also click key for the next keyframe, or we can simply move the timeline. Let's move it here, and then click on the layer and drag our mask. Let's look at the animation. Alright, working well. So we can do the same for the other solid that we have. So we can click on the solid, double click on the rectangle tool, we have the mask, expand the mask, click on the solid, drag here the position of the mask, move to the next layer, sorry, the next keyframe, then we can drag our pad here, click 0, oh sorry, we lose the, let's go back, we haven't checked the first pad, so check it, and then move to the second keyframe, click here, and then drag the mask to the end, like that, 0, and now we have it. Very good. So what we're missing is, with respect to the animation we had, we want also to animate a cloud. So we have to create a cloud and then animate that. So we can simply draw a shape. Sorry about that. Draw a shape by using the pen tool here. So let's move to the beginning here. Let's draw. You can hold while we are drawing, so we can create a Bezier curve, and we can adjust the handles and then close it. So this is our shape. We can expand here the shape layer, contents, shape, path, and we can stopwatch here the path. We can move our timeline to the next keyframe. Then we can change again the shape of our piece. Click on the layer. Then here we can either drag each of the control points, or we can play with the handles. And then here we have our cloud that changes its shape. So let's 0, and here is our animation. So lastly, if we see again the animation, we have the buildings, we have the windows, we have the background, but we also have some kind of nice gradient color for the sky. So we can simply add this effect by selecting the layer, and then here to the right we have a series of effects and presets. We can either look at the effects here. We have many tools for color correction, but we can also look here, search for, now we are looking for gradients. So we have, for example, 4 color gradients. We can double click, and now here we have the options for changing the colors, the gradient of our solid. We can click on the color, blue, we can make it lighter, like that, change this color of, instead of green, or darker blue, and then also here, lighter blue as well, maybe even lighter, something like that. And here it's our effect. Click 0, render out, and this is our animation. We can then finally, as we said, as we did seen last time, if we want to actually create the animation, if you remember, we can click to File, Export, Add to Render Queue. We go in the tab of the render queue. We can change the output of our animation from AVI to H264. Click OK. Then we can select where we want the animation to be saved. Click Save, and then click Render. Now we see all the frames here. And the video is done. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you for next tutorial. Bye bye.